Hey guys, how's it going? So I wanted to take a couple minutes here and talk about, let's revisit this concept here of energetic hygiene. So I really wanted to do this video. This is just going to be a short thing. I got a session here in a little bit, but I wanted to do this video while I still had my respirator mask on and my shit cover overalls. I really wanted to drive the point home with some visual stimuli, but it just wasn't going to happen that way. So what I was doing earlier today was cleaning out my finished part of my parents' basement, my dad's man cave, as it were, because it is covered in mold. And some of you may know this, but others may not. Is that he was diagnosed with lung cancer this summer and recently had a lobectomy, right? Part of his lobe was removed in order to, eradicate the cancer and keep it from growing. And so he is recovering from that surgery, and it's been a real struggle for him in terms of recovering. And so also discovering all of this mold in the basement, we really had to take care of it. So my brother and I spent the first part of today, pretty much all of today, cleaning everything, getting rid of a lot of stuff, just taking care of it. And you have to wear a respirator when you're working with mold. And it just occurred to me how much that particular situation really is a very perfect representation of this concept of energetic hygiene and what it means to have a filtration system energetically, but also to not completely block yourself entirely, because that's not really a possibility or an option. So when you're working in a situation like with mold, for instance, when you start moving things around, you start shifting things around, when you start stirring it up in your effort to remove things and to clean things, right? What you are doing is, in fact, disturbing the spores, and then they disperse through the air and find their way onto new surfaces in which they can grow. And some of those surfaces could very well be your own lungs. And so it's really essential for safety equipment to wear this respirator mask, which then is a filtration system. So you can still breathe, obviously, but you are keeping those spores from entering your lungs and setting up shop in your own body. Now, you can't not breathe in that situation, so there needs to be something that allows oxygen and all the other, air through, but you also want to have a filtration system. And it does feel like, I'm not sure how anybody else is doing right now, but in the last 24 hours or so, it feels like there has been a really strong energetic stirring, and a lot of chaotic energy, right? It seems very chaotic. It seems very vacillating and oscillating at a very high level, right? Very swiftly, and a lot of potential intrusion. That's certainly what I have been experiencing in the last 24 hours. And I've already done the astrology for definitely the whole weekend into this new moon, but I looked at it today just before coming on to here, just to see what is going on in that exact moment right now. And what I'm seeing is that the moon is in a square exactly to Uranus retrograde. And I remember saying yesterday how we've experienced this particular transit more directly and more expressed when the sun was in Leo, and when Venus is in Leo, Mercury is in Leo, Mars was in Leo, right? When all this energy was in Leo earlier in the summer, all of these points came into a square. But Uranus was not stationing and was not retrograde at that point. And so the moon, it's very subtle, but it is meeting up with Uranus now in this retrograde motion, in this position of Leo that really wants to showcase how great we are and how much that we can do. Look at me, I can go in here and I can clean up this mess, right? And I'm going to show other people how to clean up this mess. And I'm going to really announce it and celebrate it and be very proud of myself for it, right? And this is where the moon is in this moment, coming into that square angle with Uranus, right? That is disrupting and radically reorienting our material reality, in order to force that individuation that Uranus really represents, right? It turns everything on its side, in order for us to see things from a new perspective, and it's usually very destructive and certainly not something that we plan for a lot of times. And it does feel to me in this moment that despite our best intentions and a necessary cleaning up, right? We had to go in and clean up the basement. Like there was no way around it. It was not an option, especially with a person in the home that is having really compromised lungs and breathing issues, and to have even the potential of mold getting into that whole situation is just not an option. And so we went in there and took care of it. But if we had not been properly protected, right, it could have also had just as detrimental of effect as it could have on my dad, for instance. And so it's really important that we understand how much that we do stir up that which may be laying dormant, when we decide we're going to come in and clean some things up. And energetically, it doesn't matter. Physically, energetically, the micro to the macro, it's all the same. And that's why I felt like it was really important to address this, because there is a stirring, right? We make a decision that we're going to stand in our power, that we're going to stand in our sovereign nature, and that we're going to stand up for ourselves. We're going to clean up this mess that we know ultimately needs to be cleaned up, because it is not sustainable for our health and well-being in the long run. But in the process of cleaning it stirs up the spores, and they are going to look for a new place to settle and to grow, because that is what they do. It's not a matter of anything but just basic survival for this organism that is very, simple in its structure, but very dangerous to our health and wellness. And so the energetic hygiene is very much like that respirator and, the clothing that you wear that covers your body that you have to throw in the dumpster afterwards, because it's so covered with mold that there's no way that you can really safely clean it. And we can think about that as an energetic practice. You don't want to shield yourself entirely so that you can't breathe, that there's not an exchange of respiration, right? But you also need some measure of filtration. And I do feel the stirring up of the pot, so to speak, and these so-called spores, however you want to characterize them in quote unquote real life in the macro, they are being stirred up and moved around because we are coming in to clean up a mess. But we can't expect to do that without taking care of ourselves and our health and wellness energetically. And so the hygiene part, right? We need protective equipment on a spiritual level. And so you have to figure out what that is for yourself, right? Either that is, boosting your energetic work, right? Your grid work, bringing more and bringing more like things into your practice, whatever they are. They're so much individual to you that it's really not. I can make suggestions about what I would do necessarily, but they're not going to necessarily work for you either. The whole point is to communicate to you how important it is that when we take these steps to clean up these messes and to stand in our power and to take responsibility for our environment, we also have to acknowledge that when we decide to disrupt the life cycle of something else, regardless if we think it's good or not good. In this case, it's definitely not good. We don't want mold. We want to kill the mold, right? But we have to be realistic that in the course of moving it around and stirring it up, we're going to have to utilize some sort of protective equipment. And I do get a sense, especially on the astral, in the energetic. I mean, it was pretty clear in terms of my dream state that things are being stirred up and they are looking for a new home. And if you are not aware of this, and if you are very uh, if you're just being unrealistic about your ability to manage that, you could find yourself being infected. And I'm really not trying to turn this into this is not at all meant to reference actual events that have to do with infection and whatnot. It really isn't. It's much more of an energetic it's much more about the energetics of the situation and the fact that we are standing up, and you see it all over the place, especially with this moon in Leo, right? That is about our sovereign nature, our individual selfhood being perfect and being the center of it all. We have to be mindful, though, that there is a boomerang effect in some ways, and we have to be prepared for that. Am I saying to mask up literally? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's important that you have the right the appropriate, protective equipment, not something that is, we have the illusion is going to protect us, but really actually doesn't, right? Me wearing a cloth mask in the basement as I clean out mold isn't going to actually do anything. You need that respirator. So I know that this is just a quick update, and I felt really called to be able to share this with you so that whatever it is that your practice is, because as this new moon is upon us and this Lions Gate opens back up, it comes back around, and now we're going to be more of receiving as opposed to expressing, right? The last new moon was Leo, and so this new moon being in Virgo has much more of a feminine frequency, and there's much more of a reception and getting inward and kind of pulling inward. We don't want to pull in along with, at the same time, that which is going to maybe work against us. And there's a real potential for that right now. And it's because we are stirring it up, right? We're stirring it up through our actions, through our intentional shift in our vibration. And that's all important and perfect. But we also have to be realistic about it. And I just, I don't know, this is really distracting me. I have this shirt on that my mom just gave me. It's just a black t-shirt. And I have this anchor. This is an anchor pendant that I have on my necklace, but I'm getting this priest vibe, and I'm like, all I need is the collar, and then it just kind of completes this outfit. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and everything you need for me is in the description box below. I'm not gonna go into the whole spiel today. I just wanted to share this information with you. So have a great weekend. Enjoy the new moon, and we will be together on Tuesday for the Daily Medicine transmission. Bye.